Hi guys, it's Mrs. Richardson, and as you can see, I am coming to you from a different location than my home. I'm actually at my lake lot right now, and I've talked to you guys about it in class before, and so I thought it might be fun to kind of allow you to see the little piece of property that my husband and I invested in. And along with that, I'm going to give you guys a little bit of a snapshot of some of your bargain shopping unit through Dave Ramsey by sharing with you the 7 rules of negotiation. And before we get started, I want you to think about, have you ever purchased something that you were really excited about the deal or the bargain that you got? I mean, like you went to a garage sale and you saw something and it was way less than the price that you had expected it to be, or that you had seen it elsewhere, and it was in practically new or at least very good working condition. Or maybe you went to a store and there was a special sale on something, and so you got a really good bargain, maybe like a buy one get one free situation or something like that. The truth of the matter is that stores and those big supply chains like Amazon and Walmart and things like that, they know what they're doing. They know the marketing techniques and all of that, and we talked about a lot of those last week. But there is something that you as the consumer can do. You can negotiate. And that's kind of like a dirty word here in the United States, negotiate, because a lot of times we think that negotiating is kind of like being rude to the other person and not accepting their initial offer or price. But the reality is that the rest of the world uses negotiation all the time on just about everything, even your basic like daily grocery items and stuff. So the fact that we here in the United States think that that's a really unreasonable thing is kind of crazy when you think about it. When you go to a car lot, it's not unusual to negotiate a price back and forth on a vehicle. When you're buying a house, it's not unusual to put an offer out there to either be accepted or countered or denied. Okay, and so what we're going to look at today is some of the different things associated with negotiations. The first rule of negotiation is to always tell the truth. Now, this may seem like a duh moment, but the truth of the matter is, no pun intended, but the truth of the matter is that a lot of people like to kind of fib or undercut or not tell the truth when either selling or trying to get rid of a particular item and still make some money off of it. And really the only person that hinders is the person who bought it, and it also ruins the integrity of the person selling. So the best policy is honesty. Always be as truthful as possible. It's okay to price something a certain way and say, hey, it's priced this way because of this, and this being wrong with it, but hey, if you're still interested, go ahead and purchase it. I would love to sell it today. There's nothing wrong with that. Just be honest. Reality says we would want others to be honest with us, so we should be honest with others. And so one of the most powerful negotiating tools is honesty. The second awesome negotiation tool is the power of cash. Now, I shared with you guys last week about how my husband and I took about $11,000 worth of cash into a car dealership and bought a car, and if that doesn't explain the power of cash, I don't know what will. But the reality is that cash is emotional, it's immediate, and it makes us hurt a little bit. We talked about this back in the unit when we were talking about savings and how, and even in the debt unit, and how our brain actually registers pain when handing over cash. So cash is very, very, very powerful. But my husband actually was running one day and happened to notice a canoe that was for sale on the property here at Sugar Valley Lake. And so he contacted the guy. The guy was selling the canoe for $200, which if you've ever priced canoes, that's not completely unreasonable for this type of a canoe. But my husband had it in his head that he was going to go ahead and counter offer $150 and see if the guy would take it. And the gentleman said, hey, it really is worth about $200, and so I hate to go too low on it. And my husband said, I understand, I'm just a Dave Ramsey fan, and I've got cash here and $150, so if you wanted to make the deal, I could do it with you. And the guy stopped and he said, wait a second, you're a Dave Ramsey fan? Me too. I'll give it to you for $100. And we ended up bringing home that canoe that day for $100. So, whether or not a canoe is important to you really is not the question at hand, but it's the power of cash and maybe a little bit of the Dave Ramsey factor. But the power of cash, it's immediate, it's emotional, and it's extremely visual, and a lot of us are visual people, so cash speaks volumes. Another really awesome rule for negotiation is maintaining walkaway power. A lot of times when we're really excited about a purchase, we become married to it. Like we have a hard time turning it down. But if you can keep the mentality that maybe you don't need this product and can actually like walk away from it and say no, suddenly your negotiation becomes more powerful. So that ability to still walk away and say, hey, maybe I don't need this today, can give you a lot of power in the long run. If the other person involved in the negotiation can tell that you want this product no matter what, they're gonna drive that price way up. So walkaway power. And if you watch the videos from this week as you're expected to, Dave will share a really awesome story about Sharon and walkaway power at a flea market. And so that'll be a good fun one for you to hear. Okay, one of the most simple, yet also the hardest to actually do rules of negotiation is just to shut up. Okay, so often we want to talk and silence makes us feel awkward, but a lot of times, if we can just shut our mouths and just let the silence sit there and be comfortable with it ourselves, the other side of the negotiation is going to start to figure out a way to avoid the silence or to get rid of the silence. So, sometimes just shutting up is the best thing you can do in a negotiation. And this next rule that I'm going to share with you, coupled with the shut up, is also extremely good. Let's look at it. Okay, so the next rule of negotiation, say, that's not good enough. If you can walk into a negotiation where you're competing on prices and stuff and you're given a price, if you just simply were to say, that's not good enough, and then couple it with the shut up response, so just, that's not good enough, and then don't say anything else, you'll be amazed at how quickly that negotiation will start to turn in your favor. Because just simply by saying that's not good enough, that other side of the negotiation is going to start thinking about what they can do to make it good enough. It very easily could be good enough, but just simply by saying that and coupling it with the shut up rule, you suddenly have become extremely powerful in that negotiation. Okay, so this negotiation rule might be limited to special situations, but it's called the look out for the good guy versus the bad guy technique. So if you're ever going somewhere and trying to make a large purchase, you're typically going to see this type of technique used against you, and being on guard for it is extremely important in negotiation matters. A lot of times if you're buying an appliance or if you're buying a car or something like that, something that would typically be on payments, these types of items can be negotiated down in price. They can fluctuate. They don't have to be a set market price. So something that you want to keep in mind is that you could simply ask for a better price. And what you're probably going to hear is the salesperson's going to say, oh, I got to go talk to my boss. I don't know if they're going to let me do that. I'm on your side. I think that sounds like a great idea, but I don't know if the guy in back's going to let me. And that's the good guy, bad guy technique. They're making you think, hey, I'm the good guy, I'm on your side, but that guy over there, my boss, yeah, I don't know if he's gonna go for that. If you watch out for that, you can become extremely powerful in the negotiation technique, because you know that in reality, both of them are on the same side. They both work for the same company. You're just trying to get the best deal you can. So by simply going back at them and saying, oh, why don't you go check with that boss of yours and just see what can happen. Even just by making them go and check and then being aware that sometimes those salespeople are not the most honest, can really help your negotiation technique. And you know what? If you don't get a deal that is actually reasonable offered to you, go somewhere else. Go find another salesperson that's going to be willing to work with you. Take your money elsewhere. Nothing is saying that you need to buy from them at that moment except for you. You're the most powerful person in your own negotiations. All right, the last rule of negotiation is a fun one. This is called the if I take away rule. So let's say, at our lake lot out here, we've got this beautiful lake lot. We've done a lot of work here, but when we first bought it, it was basically just a 3-tier deck with an open tiki bar that was just basic studs put in place. It really was just the framework of the tiki hut, nothing else special. And it also had a boat ramp on it. We don't own a boat. We really didn't have plans to buy a boat anytime soon, although we would eventually like to do so. But we kind of used that as a benefit to us when it came to the negotiation for this property. We said, we don't really have a boat. We don't really have a need for this thing. but if you'll leave it for us, because they were thinking about digging it out and everything else like that, then maybe we can put that into the deal and somehow, make things work a little bit better on your behalf. And what we ended up really doing is we ended up paying $5,000 less than what they were asking originally without the boat ramp being here, and they left the boat ramp. So sometimes if you just ask or try to include something into the price, it can oftentimes really work out to your benefit when it comes to negotiations. Dave Ramsey uses an example of a buddy of his who was going to buy a house, and the guy had an old boat sitting in front, and the guy was wanting him, showing him his house and seeing if he was interested in buying it, and he put an offer on the table, and the guy said, I don't really think that that's good enough, using that, not good enough technique against him. And the guy came back and said, well, I don't really know if I can pay that high of a price, but maybe if you throw in the boat, we could talk about it. The boat was never actually part of the deal, but the guy used it as an if I take away technique and ended up, on the upper end of that particular negotiation. So sometimes you may not exactly bring down the price, but you might get something added to your deal that sweetens it and makes it good for you. So, negotiations are hopefully a win-win-win situation. You win, they win, everybody wins situation. You're not looking out for just number one, but you are hoping that you'll end up on a good end of the deal. So, something to keep in mind when it comes to the 7 rules of negotiation. So as promised, here's a little tour of my lake lot. Back through those trees, you can see my minivan, and this is the shed where we kind of store things. But as you come down this walkway, you can actually see the tiki hut, like we like to call it, but it's basically like an outdoor kitchen. My husband built some windows that can kind of come down over the openings, so that way when it's cooler, we can close them up. It's got a little bench and some stools, an area for us to eat at the bar if we'd like to. And then you can see the awesome wraparound kind of countertop here as I move around. Okay, and now you can see the other side of that, and that door on the far left-hand side of the wraparound countertop is a bathroom, and this is the top level of the deck where I was standing in our previous part of the video. So you go down these stairs, you can see the second level of the deck. And this is kind of where we put up a nice little dining spot for us to eat at with tables and chairs that we just bought a little bit ago. And then there's a third layer down here, or level down here, where we will be putting some other furniture items for outdoors. There's that boat ramp I was talking about, or boat lift, whatever you want to call it, and the lovely canoe that came up in our earlier discussion as well. So that's it. We're excited for some fun summers at the lake. So you may have caught on to this on your own, but some of these techniques are not only techniques that can be used in terms of making a purchase, big or small, but these are also techniques that you can use to kind of get your way, if you will. So the next time that you're trying to get your parents to allow you to do something, maybe think back to these negotiation techniques. Or maybe the next time you're talking with your boss and trying to get your way kind of at least heard and maybe accepted, think about these negotiation techniques. You can even use these on your teachers. Just not me, because I taught them to you. But they can come in a lot of handy ways for you here soon. So keep these negotiation techniques in mind and have a great week, and hopefully warmer. See ya. Oh, and go Broncos!